For nearly 2 centuries, Americans' obsession with game shows has been our most beloved pastime. Nearly 30 years ago, when global warming made our planet inhospitable, the network executives behind our favorite television shows like Safety Gazing, Bees and Wasps, and Emergency Action Plan 5 brought us a new, revolutionary game show that promised to save the human race. Biodome. Biodome uses America's love of competitive, reality-style voting game shows to pioneer biosphere technology. Each season, we trap 12 contestants in a self-contained biodome. The contestants are pitted against each other in games of strength and wit, all while being monitored by our private, network-owned scientists. This research has been the foundation in modern biodome technology that is sending humans to dreamy locations like HD 40307G, Kepler 16b, and the wormhole of Xanadu 3. Now, on season 64, we get to observe how contestants react and survive when facing orchestrated, natural, social, and physical hazards. The catch: they don't know what they'll face or when they'll face it. No matter what, each hazard promises to stretch contestants to the limit. Each hazard is top secret. Only our Biodome executive producer knows what it is. As each contestant is vying to be crowned the ultimate Biodomer, they are eagerly waiting the hazard to be released into their 400-acre self-contained biodome. Only 4 contestants left. Let's see what happens next.
So, Alberto, what do you think the new hazard is?
Huh? The new hazard? The producer told me it's an earthquake. Don't ask me how I know.
Yes, we all now know. Amaretto told us. The first hazard is an earthquake.
It's not possible. It's a marketing gimmick set up by the network executives.
The biosphere is something like 400 acres big and half a mile tall. There is no way the executives, the network, has the technology to simulate an earthquake. They'd have to shake the whole dome.
An earthquake, you say? That'll be fun to deal with.
Nope, Amaretto don't believe it either. Too risky.
Seriously, do the execs even know what an earthquake is? What it would take to make one?
It's idiotic. They can't possibly believe we'll fall for that.
An earthquake is the result of a few things. Volcanoes, meteor impact, underground explosions, the movement of tectonic plates.
Tectonic plates?
Boring.
The Earth is not totally a solid thing. I mean, it's got layers like an onion.
Like that Shrek movie?
Like an onion. They're called tectonic plates because they're constantly in motion. They're just moving around each other. They're floating.
They float on top of this liquid mantle substance. See, it goes core, the middle of the Earth, and that has an outer core, which is liquid, and that's surrounded by a solid plastic mantle layer that, in geological time, behaves like a viscous fluid. The crust, the outer layer of the Earth, it's like a skin. It's made up of these tectonic plates, and the plates move around.
I really don't care what an earthquake is, but we should probably be ready for it.
Not possible. I mean, it's just not gonna happen.
So, these plates, they move around and they rub up against each other, and sometimes when they rub up against each other, they get stuck. And when they get stuck, they try to force by each other. And this force starts building up tension, which creates energy.
The energy builds up between the two pieces that eventually they just break apart. And that release of energy is what causes the earthquakes.
That's great, but we really should be talking about how to prepare for an earthquake.
Nobody really likes Lauren anyways.
Where these two pieces of plates rub together and they eventually slip from each other is called the fault place.
So the point where the earthquake starts, that's called the focus. It's usually deep within the earth, but then the point on the surface above this focus, that's called the epicenter.
These focus areas and epicenters are usually found around the fault lines. And the fault lines make up the plate boundaries located around the world.
Nope, seriously guys, we should start prepping. It's not hard to prepare for an emergency like this, so there's no reason why we shouldn't do it. We have nothing to lose.
What does she think she is, a Boy Scout?
Why? It is impossible for them to simulate tectonic movement.
Here, can you hand me that notepad? I'll start making a prep list. Okay, we need to figure out where the evacuation routes are. And the emergency exits.
No I ain't. Amaretto ain't leaving the dome. That means I'll lose.
We'll need to find a safe place in each section of the dome that we can escape to. We can take shelter under sturdy furniture, up against an interior wall, away from windows, bookcases, and tall furniture.
I'ma just find a door.
No, tell Amaretto that doors are not stronger than other parts of a building. They used to teach that, but they've stopped. So don't use doors. We'll need to secure furniture in our living quarters, and we'll need to practice drop, cover, and hold techniques.
How old does she think we are?
I'm not sure if the dome is powered by any gas lines, but we'll need to know where the shutoff valves are so we can turn them off if they break in the quake. I think I saw a toolbox in one of the basements.
It's not going to happen.
Speaking of a toolbox, we'll need emergency supplies. An emergency kit.
Import points are things that contestants can collect to import whatever they want into the dome from the outside world.
Pizza. I am importing pizza, organic feta, fresh spinach, Alfredo sauce. It has been 6 months since I have had anything that wasn't rations or vegetables grown in my own recycled, composted fecal material.
That's nasty. I ain't spending mine. They can be cashed out at the end of the game. Amaretto's gonna buy a neon orange Porsche. Piss off my neighbors.
Karen made me combine mine with hers for the pizza.
In an emergency kit, we should have food, which we have a lot of, but I'm gonna import some canned food, dehydrated milk, canned juices, at least enough for 72 hours, and other things that aren't salty for dehydration reasons, and they shouldn't need refrigeration. It's a good thing we don't have babies in the biodome or people with special dietary needs, or we need to prep for that in addition. We'll need flashlights, probably one of those wind-up ones, water, so much water. We'll need half a gallon per person per day. Now the dome has lots of water, but not all of it is drinkable. So we'll need to purify it with bleach, as long as it's pure, unscented, 5 to 6% sodium hypochlorite.
Amaretto ain't drinking no bleach.
Really? Bleach?
Well, maybe the network executives figured out how to predict an earthquake. And now they know there's going to be one this season.
If that were possible, that would be really cool for humanity. But it doesn't matter because the biodome is not located on any fault lines.
The major fault lines are located around the tectonic plates, and the whole face of the Earth is made up of these plates. Plates like the Australian plate is under Australia, and it meets up with the Pacific plate to the east and the Eurasian, Indian, and Antarctic plate to the west. The USA, where the biodome is located, is on its own plate, the North American plate. And our western coast is pretty much rests where the North American plate meets the Pacific plate.
California and the Pacific Northwest are at the most risk for earthquakes. California is known as the San Andreas Fault Line, and the Pacific Northwest is known as the Cascadia Subduction Zone. And that includes Washington, Oregon, and parts of British Columbia.
One geological oddity in the United States is the New Madrid seismic zone, which exists in the southern and midwestern United States. It extends to New Madrid, Missouri, and it's capable of some pretty large quakes. The largest being a series of quakes in the years 1811 and 1812, And they measured from 7.0 to 8.6 on the moment magnitude scale. I mean, that's some pretty big stuff. Other major fault lines are the Wasatch Fault, which is under Salt Lake City, and the Denali Fault, which is in Alaska, which had a quake that measured 7.9 on the moment magnitude scale.
The Richter scale, it's not used anymore, not since the 1970s. They are both methods used to measure the energy released by earthquakes. The Richter scale is a base 10 logarithmic scale, which means the measures increase exponentially, which means it increases by tenths with every increase in magnitude. When the quakes are larger, the Richter scale method tends to underreport the size. The seismologists have since developed the moment magnitude scale, which...
What?
Is she sure it's not the Richter scale? How did she know that?
What? How did I know that? Well, seismologists Thomas C. Hanks and Hiro Kanamori of the California Institute of Technology said the Richter scale saturates at magnitudes greater than 5.5. And we all use the moment magnitude scale because Amaretto said so.
As you can see, where the biodome is located, we're not near any fault lines and there's no potential for seismic activity. Technologically speaking, there is no way they have figured out how to shake the dome. And if they had figured out how to predict earthquakes, it doesn't matter because the biodome is not located near any fault lines.
But it doesn't matter. It doesn't take much to prepare for a quake, no matter how much you think it won't happen. So I guess I'll just tell you video guys what to do if it happens. When the quake hits, take as few steps as possible to get to a safe place and then drop, cover, and hold on. If you're in bed, stay there. Put a pillow over your head. Stay away from windows. And we should stay inside until it's done. Don't go to the emergency exits prematurely. While there may not be a fire, the fire alarms will probably be going off, so just be aware.
There are different types of seismic waves.
Boring.
If you're outside, find a clear spot and drop to the ground and stay like that until the ground stops shaking. Stay away from buildings, trees, power lines, street lights, things that fall. If you're driving, pull over. Again, avoid power lines and avoid bridges. Keep your seatbelt on. If a power line falls on your vehicle, do not get out. Wait for help. And be aware of falling things. If you're near a mountain, hill, or cliff, be aware of landslides too.
That's still boring, but at least it's relevant.
Oh yeah, the emergency kit list. Portable battery-powered radio and spare batteries, first aid kit, fire extinguishers, special needs meds, extra eyeglasses, etc. Important papers or cash, tools, extra clothes. You'll need tools for things like shutting off gas valves if they break. So take my import points and get me those. I wonder how realistic they'll get with the simulation.
The main quake is often followed by aftershocks, which are basically little quakes that happen after the main shock.
Despite them being smaller, they can be extremely dangerous because they're really unpredictable and they can end up causing more damage to a building that's already been damaged in the main quake.
When the trembling stops, the disaster is only beginning.
She's just quoting an episode of National Geographic. We just watched it last week.
She's right. It's generally not the earthquake itself that causes the most damage. It's things like aftershocks or buildings collapsing suddenly or exposed electrical wiring or fires caused from burst gas lines.
And tsunami.
They wouldn't.
Tsunami, or tidal wave, or also known as seismic sea wave. It's caused when an earthquake abruptly displaces the ground underneath the body of water, and all that water has to go someplace.
They wouldn't do that.
It doesn't hurt to be prepared. Well, they did it. And I was the only one that prepared.
What?
Well, what does she want me to say?
Flippin' Boy Scout.
The quake hit, and we all seem to be okay. We didn't get the kit, but I think we've made do. I performed some basic first aid on the others, mostly just cuts and bruises. I got everyone into long sleeve shirts and pants, and everyone's wearing sturdy boots. We did find a broken gas line. We were able to get it shut off. Luckily, we've managed to collect enough water to last us the week. I'm glad someone prepared.
I think it's time to vote.
I vote Lauren out of the dome.
Lauren.
Lauren's out. Could someone grab that emergency kit she put together?
In the biodome, how long will you survive?